What's going on, everybody? This is JM Banks, Urban Alchemy Podcast. Hope everybody is doing well out there. Back at it again, Lovecraft Country, Episode 3, Holy Ghost. Hope everybody has been enjoying these episode recaps and reviews. Just want to remind everybody out there, we are exclusively putting these episode breakdowns on our YouTube page. So if you have not already, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube page. Please like, comment, share, whatever you can to help support the platform. We really do need your assistance in growing our platform. So whatever you can do to help support us, we do greatly appreciate it. Getting right into it, episode 3 is entitled Holy Ghost. We will definitely realize why that is the title of this episode, just going right into it. So the episode opens with the church scene. We see Letty sitting in the pews of a church during service. We got a lot of music going on. There's no sound though. You just see Letty kind of stone-faced looking forward while everybody is singing, dancing, just having a traditional, black church time with the spirit moving through the crowd. Letty ain't feeling it. Letty is just sitting there. Very beautiful scene because, like I said, no sound. All you hear is a voice, which is a poem. And the poem was beautiful. And the poem was, which angels gave you their wings? Which skies have you flown? And when you reached the heavens, who was there to catch you when you fell? And that was actually a spoken word poem performed by Precious Ebony, which was a part of Nike's Be True campaign. I just thought that was a dope way. Once again, they found a way to interlay some type of just something that wasn't traditionally some sort of music that you can lay over a scene. They did it, like I said, in the first episode with the James Baldwin monologue. They did it in the second episode with Gil Scott Heron, Whitey's On the Moon, and now they're doing it again with this spoken word poem. And I just love the way they're incorporating these different facets of language into a scene just to add to that storytelling motif. So shout out to Jordan Peele and J.J. Abrams out there just doing amazing filmmaking. And that's just from the first few seconds of the episode. So and they really are just introducing people to stuff they may not come across every day. I probably would not have heard that spoken word poem, but definitely think it's dope. Definitely going in my archive. It then cuts to Letty and her sister Ruby. We touched on the relationship between these two sisters in my first review, so check that out if you have not. Episode 1, Sundown, in which I discussed that there may be a sort of sibling rivalry. Letty is, of course, the more attractive, thinner, more fair complected, talented of the two sisters, while Ruby is more of a robust woman, darker complected. And the relationship between these two sisters was further strained by Letty missing the funeral of their mother, which was indicated by both of Letty's siblings in that first episode. They're trying to mend fences, build bonds, as siblings should do. But anybody who has a sketchy family member who's known notoriously for doing sketchy shit, you to be a little bit leery when they come around talking about making the relationship better. So definitely that scene definitely kind of hit a different chord with me having that situation. I know a lot of other people out there have that situation. And it's tough because you have these family members who you do love and you want the best for and you want to help. However, they have given you maybe multiple reasons not to trust what their intentions are, or you have every right to be cautious. And so that just leads to another interesting aspect because you do have this sibling rivalry where it might be certain aspects that she may look upon as in it's unfair that she, doesn't have all these aspects or may not be as well liked as Letty, which it will come up a little bit later. This plot thread with Letty perhaps being more favored of the two sisters. But it's fucked up because Ruby seems to be the more stable of the two, more just community oriented, just all in all the better of the two siblings in terms of morals and respectability. But like Letty said, she was just trying to build a bond, and that bond is encapsulating in the act of buying a house. It's a huge, big, old, spooky house. I believe they said it was 3 stories with a basement and 13 rooms. So it's definitely a big space that they plan on leasing to black tenants in this all-white neighborhood. So that was a very controversial thing back there, a very dangerous thing back then, and especially in the Midwest. You have these instances of people who are just trying to start lives and buy houses, and you have neighborhoods who banded together and start race lining and pretty much not selling to black residents who were trying to buy into the neighborhood. And it's interesting that they brought that up specifically because we had a lot of that going on here in my hometown of Kansas City, Missouri. And there's this asshole named J.C. Nichols, and he was notorious for implementing it. And we have one of our main, areas in town, of our more luxurious areas here in the Kansas City area, is J.C. Nichols Plaza. And he's just a racist asshole that we commemorated with this part of town that's just one of the biggest business plazas in Kansas City, and it's named after this person who was doing the exact same thing that's going on in this show. So if you're in the Kansas City area, make sure every time you drive by J.C. Nichols Parkway to just roll your window down and spit on it. But then we go to Atticus. He's going to his father's. He's pretty much having to go to the father to inform him he's going to need to stay there because things have been getting kind of tense between him and Hippolyta since George's death. And I guess he's kind of outworn his welcome staying there with Georgia and Hippolyta's daughter. And so he's pretty much kind of overstepping his bounds, actually. He was doing a few things that she just was not digging, just kind of being in the way. He is just trying to be helpful, but grief is a funny thing, and certain people need space. It looks like Atticus was pretty much just trying to be the man of the house and, take care of all the business that George was not there to do. Unfortunately, he's kind of stepping on her toes at that point. So he kind of gets out of there to go to his father's and begrudgingly asked to stay there for a few nights before he heads back to Florida. Since, his main thing was to go there to find his father. They found the father. But while he was there initially, Montrose is passed out drunk because, of course, he's grief ridden as well because of his brother's death. He's having a dream, and as Atticus wakes him up, he pretty much says the end of the dream because it's been told to him so many times he felt like he was actually there while the story was going on. And it's during the Tulsa massacre, as I mentioned last episode, they bring up the point that Montrose and George were raised in Tulsa and they escaped during the riots. And it's brought up that they were cornered by a group of white people, and out of nowhere, a stranger with a baseball bat starts walloping heads, and then it saves the two young boys, young Montrose and young George, so they can, get away. And it's funny because while he's telling the story, and he tells about how the guy looks back at him and says one thing, and that's all he says before he disappears. I was like, please say, I'm Batman. But it was it wasn't that. It was, I got you, kid. And they never saw him again. I wonder if this will come up in the future for the episodes, who this mystery Jackie Robinson baseball swinging person was. And in the first intro scene of this whole show is that dream sequence, and Cthulhu gets knocked apart by Jackie Robinson. And I don't even know if I brought that up specifically while talking about that dream sequence in the first episode, because it was just so much going on. I think I may have missed a couple things, but yeah, it's weird the way that pops up once again, and then you see the use of a baseball bat pop up a couple more times in this episode. So, I'm not really sure where they're going with that specific thread, but it like I said, might pop up again in the future. So it looks like the story they're going with in terms of the official story as to what happened with George was they're saying that he was shot and killed by the racist sheriff Hunt in the first episode, that they ran into the monsters in the cabin and whatnot. But that's what they're telling Hippolyta. And Atticus is very conflicted about lying to her. That's pretty much family to him, and she knows it's not adding up. Something's not quite right. She feels it in her gut. And Montrose actually has a very interesting line, and he's like, do you want to tell her that wizards exist? Do you want to tell her that white folks got magic too? Like, that's a great line because it's like on top of all the other bullshit we got going on with, we're descended from slaves. We got to deal with segregation. We got to deal with disenfranchisement of the community. All these other horrible things going on, and you want to tell her that white people got magic on top of all those other things, institutional upper hands that they have. On top of all that, they have this supernatural power to influence the world as they see fit. And I could definitely see how his thought frame on keeping her in the dark to protect her uh, from that information, because that definitely would fuck up somebody's thought frame. Just, you lost someone you loved, and on top of that, you got to deal with magic. Yeah, just let her kind of ease into it. You don't need to go just jumping right into the wizards exist. Another thing, good thing they do is they bring back up the fact that Letty, she's a photographer, she's an artist. In this boarding house, she ends up bringing in a lot of the black artists she's friends with, and they use the form of the pictures that will come up a bit later. But she's taking pictures all around the house of the residents that live there now. Atticus pops up. He's pretty much just saying his goodbyes because he's about to head back to Florida since he found Montrose. And then you have this scene where it's kind of awkward. You get the information that it's been 3 weeks since George's funeral, and Atticus hasn't checked up on Letty or came around to see her. It's funny because the episode is called Holy Ghost, and Atticus ghosted Letty. It's kind of messed up, but like I said, it's grief. People grieve in their own ways. Atticus probably just felt guilty about the whole thing, and Letty being there and being somebody who was involved with it, probably would bring up too many hard memories. But, Letty's a woman, so of course she's not going to see it in that respect. She's going to probably take it personally, as she does, as you can tell she does in this episode. Atticus, as she's telling him, I got an extra room, you should probably stay here. He's like, no, I got to pack up. I told them I'll only be gone, a week, and it's been like a month. So he's about to leave, and then that's when the bullshit with the white people starts. That's when you just hear a car horn, and you see they got several cars lined up on the street in front of the house with bricks tied to the horn. So it's just constant horns, and after a few seconds of hearing it, it does get aggravating. So I couldn't imagine just living day in and day out with that. The one thing I was really thinking during that whole scene was, it's like a bunch of other houses on this street. Like, everybody else is going to be hella uncomfortable. White people don't have soundproof walls, so they definitely got to hear this shit too. I know they didn't move out until they cleared the Negroes out. So that was just something in the back of my head. Is like, yeah, you're doing this to aggravate the black people, but white people got ears too. I don't know if they think Negroes had super hearing, and this was just going to get them out there super quick. But I can definitely see how that would be annoying, but it's equally annoying for everybody in the vicinity. So Atticus decides he's going to stick around to protect Letty in the house and in the borders, and then we get our first view of one of these ghosts, and it's a old lady with a jaw missing. All in all, the ghost scenes where the ghosts actually do pop up, they're not jump scary. They're more so ambiance. Like, I love the fact this is horror science fiction, and it's not just like we've gotten so degraded with what we think horror is, and it didn't make me jump. Like, it doesn't need to make you jump. It needs to compel you to feel something. Like, it builds to the ambiance of this house. Like, the ghosts don't need to jump out at you. Like, they're there, they're there. What they did, once again, the CGI in this show is my only big con, and it kind of takes me out of the story a little bit. But overall, I really enjoy what they're doing with the actual supernatural elements of the show. So then it goes into the next scene, in which Letty notices steam coming from her radiator, and she goes down to the basement to see that the boiler it looks like it's overheating, and the knob is broke. And this was a very impressive scene, because I thought Letty was going to go upstairs and get Atticus or call for one of the residents to come down. Nah, Letty went down there. She found a big ass wrench, and she used all of her strength to turn it and make sure that shit did not explode. Just really shows what kind of independent, strong woman she is. Like, she don't need no man to come down and fix that. She got that. And this episode really did make me fall in love with Jodie Smollett. Like, she is such a phenomenal actress, and she's made the character of Letty Lewis just like one of the best female roles of this year. I definitely think if she doesn't get an Emmy for this, I don't know what the hell's going on, because it's already COVID year, so not a lot of competition going on at the moment. But this girl's acting her ass off in this show. Like, she's giving it everything she got, and I love it. Like, Letty is just like I said last episode, she's a certified badass. And at this point, I'm like, shit. Now that George is dead, just give it a whole damn show. I'm totally cool with this being Letty Lewis country. Boiler scene leads to the more spooky ghost stuff, and not, you just see certain stuff knocking around in the basement, boxes clattering, and then we see there's another sub basement floor. Looks kind of like a cellar, which her and Atticus go down to explore. And it's pretty much just an empty room, which Letty decides to use as a dark room. Then we cut to the big party scene. It's pretty much a housewarming party. A lot of interesting stuff, a lot of interesting details in this scene. One of the things I love was the fact that you just hear talking amongst the guests as a group of women, and there's a line about this new minister who's supposed to jumpstart the civil rights movement. And they make a comment about him having a white woman that they made give up, and it's just a really good scene, because it's a lot to unpack in it, because it goes on so many levels, and it's interesting. And this is, for a lot of people who don't know, there was a biography done back in 1986 named Bearing the Cross, in which it details the story of Martin Luther King Jr. having a relationship with a white woman during his younger years. And this white woman's name was Betty Moitz, and she died in 2016 at the age of 89. So it was just interesting, and that's something that a lot of people wouldn't know, and it's something that's not really talked about. And I love the fact that they brought it back up, because Jordan Peele is doing a great job with these deep cuts and these kind of cultural Easter eggs that black people kind of get to say, oh, let me, I know that. It's just, like I said, it's interesting on multiple levels. Like I said, Journey Smollett delivers the line right after that. She says it sarcastically, like, oh yeah, you definitely can't stand up for black people if you love a white woman. And that's an important line on many levels, because number one, Journey Smollett, the actress portraying Letty Lewis, is biracial. Also, Jordan Peele is in an interracial relationship. So, and Jordan Peele has received a lot of criticism in regards to him having subject matter that relates so deeply to the black community while still being married to a woman outside of his own race. And that is a debate that has been going on constantly in our culture as to the roles of someone who is engaged in an interracial relationship. And Umar Johnson, for instance, he has said many a times that he believes that a person who is in a interracial relationship has no right to have position of leadership within the movement, because he's automatically left the community in a sense. He believes that if you marry someone outside of your race, especially a black man wearing a white woman, and something happens to the man, pretty much the money that household accumulates is going to get put back into the white community. There's a lot of interesting details about that topic, one of which I hope me and Eric covers on the podcast, where we cover more deep philosophical discussions in regards to the community and race and culture and whatnot. So always keep your ears peeled for the podcast side of things. But it was just a very interesting, quick scene that had so much in it. It was beautiful. Then we get the flashback, which is also another deep cut, a cultural Easter egg. Because on the surface, I first watched this scene and, just took it as exposition to build that this ghost, it was a flashback. So you just feel, you want them to get, you probably want you to get the feel that this haunted house has just been being haunted through the generations. These 4 kids playing with the Ouija board. Before we go into anything else, I just want to tell you, Deborah Banks did not play with the spirits. She did not play with any of that bullshit about us summoning or conjuring spirits or saying Bloody Mary or Candyman in the mirror. She always taught us, if you open that door, a goddamn spirit might walk through. And she ain't about to have no kind of ghost in her house unless it's paying rent. And she didn't play it, so we didn't play it either. So I saw these kids playing with this Ouija board, and all the first thing that came to my mind is, where's their mama? Somebody need to be there to smack that shit out their hand. They was playing in the basement too. Like I said, at first it's just a bunch of kids playing a game, getting scared and running away. And it wasn't until I saw a meme on Facebook, or not even a meme, a post, someone breaking down that a lot of people didn't catch, that there's a young boy in the group of these four little black kids, and he asked the Ouija board if he was going to enjoy his trip. The Ouija board answers no, and that's it. That's pretty much all they give to that, and leave it at that. And it wasn't until I saw that post that I realized that was an Emmett Till Easter egg, and a deep cut in regards to that, because one of the girls does call him Bubba, which I didn't necessarily catch at first, but that was a nickname Emmett Till had. His mother, Mammy Till, always called him Bubba, as well as the outfit is the spitting image of the outfit you picture of Emmett Till. There's a picture with him with the white shirt, with the black tie, with the white, sequencing on the tie. And that's the exact outfit that the little boy in the seance had. And I didn't even catch that. And that is so, just those small minor details that Jordan Peele has put in there. That's so just, it's when I saw it and when I read it, I got goosebumps. I got chills, because I was like, that's so ominous and creepy, and yo, like, that shit is, like, to black people, that kind of shit is way scarier than any kind of ghost. Like, if you could have told me you want to deal with the racist in Money, Alabama, or Money, Mississippi, that Emmett Till had to deal with, or these ghosts in the house, I would take the ghost. But yeah, that scene was just like, whoa. After I saw that and reevaluated and watched it again, it was just like a hit. Like, yo, Jordan Peele he's doing some different stuff with this show. Then we get back to the party, get a scene with Letty and Atticus. Letty's trying to make Atticus a little jealous. Back when they were discovering that little basement part, she touched his hand, he kind of pulled away. Atticus be acting like a little bitch sometimes. He's been very emotional these all 3 episodes, and each time he's done some shit that pisses me way the fuck off. And of course, you shunning the beautiful Journey Smollett is not going to win you any points, Atticus. But anyways, he's acting like a sucker. And then one of the dudes, I believe it was the same dude from episode 1 that Atticus just don't like, lets him know, like, hey, is that your girl? Well, you better let her know, because she over there grinding on another dude. And I've been in that situation personally as well. You got a girl trying to make you jealous, so she starts dancing with another guy. Atticus does not waste a second, which is one thing I can say. Good job, Atticus. You know when to put your boots on. Next scene is him and Letty, and be like, hey, this is what's up. And they start making out, starts getting hot and heavy, and then they start having sex. And Atticus got her up against this dresser, and he's just banging her back out. And I'm like, about time. This has been building long enough. Good for you, Atticus. Good for you, Letty. The scene gets kind of awkward. Atticus reaches down, and he sees blood, and Letty's like, oops, uh-oh. I didn't know my monthly was starting. And Atticus is a gentleman, of course, so he's like, hey, no big deal. Yeah, that might have happened, but it's an extremely awkward situation that happens to many a men. But yeah, it happens. And very embarrassing for the woman, I can imagine. Yeah, Atticus, he doesn't make a big deal out of it, and they go their separate ways. Next thing you know, the bullshit with the white people starts again. We got the whole front lawn ablaze because they have lit a cross on fire. What's interesting to me is that we don't actually see who lit the cross on fire. So I actually have a theory that Jussie Smollett burnt that cross on the lawn and then blamed it on 2 white men wearing MAGA hats. And that's just my theory. I think they're going to reveal that maybe in the 8th episode. He's going to pop up, and yeah, they're going to unmask the villain, and it's going to be Jussie Smollett, just like in Scooby-Doo. But that's just me. You guys might think it might just be, racist townsfolk, but you got to look deeper in this show. You got to see what they're doing with the context and subject matter. But directly after all this, we get the return of Letty motherfucking Lewis. She comes out there with that Louisville slugger. She's like, I'm tired of this bullshit. Yeah, about to see who y'all messing with. Comes out with their Atticus. He don't miss a beat either. He's like, yo, I just had sex with this girl. I'm going to follow her to the gates of hell now. And he tells the other brothers in the house, hey, yo, get the shotguns. And they go and they post up to let the town know, hey, she's about to go do what she does. If any of y'all got a problem, we got a whole line of Negroes with shotguns. So come say something. She starts busting these cars' windows and knocking the bricks off the horn. She's just had enough. It's been a very emotional day for her. It's been Ghost and sex with Atticus and, her sister, all the stuff with her sister. It's just been too much. She's mad as hell and she ain't gonna take it no more. So she goes swinging that bat. The scene wraps up with Ruby, the sister of Letty, pulling that car out. She don't miss a beat either. She pulls the car up. They all throw the guns in as soon as they hear the sirens. She takes off, and they all get on their knees because they know the cops is going to blame the shit on them. But as soon as the cops pull up, they arrest Letty. And then we got this very tense scene with Letty and this cop in the back of this paddy wagon. Instead of whooping Letty's ass or hitting her or anything, they pretty much start speeding along the roads, and she ain't got no seatbelt on or anything. She's handcuffed, so they start hitting bumps, they start hitting turns. She starts flying around this paddy wagon, fucking herself up, like her head's bouncing on. She's bleeding. They're trying to get information on who sold her this house. So on the surface, it kind of feels like, get the hell out of our neighborhood. We don't want you here because you're black. But in all actuality, they're like, you don't even know where the hell you are. And then he lets them know, like, there was 8 black dead people that was found in the basement. So that's our first indication that there is definitely some massacre or something that happened in that house. That jumps to the sub-basement that Letty makes into her dark room, and it's cool the way they did this scene because you start to see the faces of the ghosts in each of her individual pictures she took at the beginning of this episode. The faces, and there's also these lines on the pictures, and the lines actually, as she puts them on the floor in like a puzzle pattern, they kind of make the image of this face, which turns into an actual figure, which rises from the floor and tells her to get out the house. And Letty is ready to go. She is a sister for show. She does not waste any time. She's like, we gotta go. We gotta get, just like in episode 1. As soon as she realized there was a lynch mob on the way, she was like, we gotta go. Not wasting no time at all. Fortunately, with her being so flustered with the, seeing a ghost and all that other stuff, she kind of blurts out to her sister that, the way she got the money was she inherited. Her mother left her the money, and just her, not the 2 other siblings, just Letty. And considering the relationship between these siblings and the mother, this doesn't go over well with Ruby. Number one, Ruby was always, like I said, she was kind of the good daughter. And Letty was always the one who was doing what was good for Letty. And she's just pissed off, number one, that her mother would leave it exclusively to that specific child. Number 2, that Letty wouldn't tell her, let alone split the money with her and her brother Melvin. And number 3, that she lied about it. And once it looks like it was just to get her sister to come help out with this house instead of trying to mend fences with her sister. After that, we get Montrose and Hippolyta. They have a little scene where it's like, okay, are they about to start doing something? And Hippolyta pretty much lets him know, I don't believe shit y'all say about how he died. I don't believe it just was the, being shot that killed him. And Montrose is sticking to, you don't want to know. Trust me, you do not want to know. But then we go to a diner where Letty and Atticus meet up, and we get a bit more exposition about the history of the Winthorpe house. She shares with him that the original owner was, one of the original owners was Hiram Epstein, which was the last one, I believe, of the owners. And he was a scientist, a university scientist who was fired for conducting human experiments. And once again, just one of those other cultural deep cuts that Jordan Peele has thrown in there, because that has huge cultural significance with the black community, because we have a long history of, not just us, racists in general have a long history of doing unethical scientific research on minority populations, i.e., take J. Marion Sims, who is, for those of you who don't know, he's pretty much the father of modern gynecology. A lot of the practices used in gynecology, this guy spearheaded. Unfortunately, he came up with these methods through experimentation on his female slave population, and he did all kind of horrible, unethical experiments on them, especially pregnant women. And it's just monstrous shit that they did, as well as the U.S. government with the Tuskegee experiment, injecting black men with syphilis, pretty much just to study the effects of the disease and the deterioration of the human body as the years go on and having it go untreated. It just goes on. The Nazis, they also performed a lot of human experiments on the Jewish populations in concentration camps. If you know a lot about the World War II and Josef Mengele and his experiments, just a lot of crazy Aryan occults, and it's very funny that the Aryans were also super involved with the occult. Pretty much Letty decides she's not going to live her life in fear. She's not going to get ran out of this house. She gets a voodoo priestess. They roll up to the house. Voodoo priestess slits the goat's neck and uses the goat's blood to create some sort of protective mark for the house, as well as Atticus and Letty. And while they are in that sub-basement, pretty much doing like a seance ritual and they're chanting, these three white boys break into the house. And of course, as soon as they come in that house, it hit me, they ain't got the blood on them. They ain't got the blood mark to protect them from the ghost. So as soon as they go in there trying to fuck shit up, they was going in there to start problems, and they found a problem themselves. The ghost kill all three of them. Once again, the CGI is the standout problem for me. It just takes me out. It's a lot of stuff they can do practically. There's a ghost with the basketball player's body and a baby's head, and I was just like, yo, that looks horrible. But yeah, if they can figure out a way to get around that, maybe start using more practical effects, I would be so much more happy. But yeah, the three white boys, they get killed. The exorcism pretty much goes awry when a pipe busts and the blood marks get washed off of them. The priestess, she gets killed and then possessed. The ghost whips her around like a rag dog from the floor to the ceiling, to the floor to the ceiling. And then Atticus gets possessed by the ghost, the main evil ghost, Hiram Epstein. And he is super creepy. He's like walking in this jerky fashion, and all you hear is thump, thump, thump from his feet stomping on the ground, and Letty's just making out this fearful humming, and it's just a scary ass scene because he just keeps getting closer and closer, and he's just talking in this guttural deep voice like, get the fuck out my house, bitch. And I was just like, damn, that would be scary as hell if that motherfucker was walking towards me doing that with his jerky movements. And then she has the idea, and this is something else I love about this show, is she calls out to the spirits of the black people. And I kind of addressed this in the last episode about black people having this tie to the ancestors and the spirits. And she calls out to them. She's pleading to them, letting them know like she needs their help. They're not dead yet. Letting them know, do not be a victim. Even though he may have killed you, he hasn't won yet. Like, you can still fight against this monster. And a scene that was very reminiscent of 13th Ghost, one of my favorites. A lot of people hate that movie, but I love it. The scene where all the ghosts, the 8 ghosts of the murdered black people, they finished the seance with Letty, hands bound in a circle, Atticus in the middle, and then you see the ghost of Hiram Epstein start to emerge from Atticus, and it's just like, yo, this is such a deep scene. And it's in the background, you hear this gospel song playing, and I believe it's Satan, we're gonna tear your kingdom down. And it's just a beautiful scene. Beautiful scene. They banish the spirit. The episode actually caps off. We see that the subsection of the basement actually has a lower bottom part. Actually, I believe that's led to from the elevator. Has a long tunnel where they hit the bodies of the white boys. And we also learned that tunnel possibly leads to a missing artifact that Christina Braithwaite, who is reintroduced at the very end of this episode, and we learned that that's actually how Letty got the money. Her mother did not leave her the money. She only thinks that her mother had left her the money. It was actually Christina Braithwaite giving her the money to buy the house, and pretty much she orchestrated all that so she can get Letty in the house and get rid of these ghosts so they can get to that subsection, so they can follow that tunnel. She explains that the Winthorpe house was originally owned by the man whose last name is Winthorpe. I didn't catch his first name. He was one of the original founding members of the Sons of Adam, the cults that tried to open the door to the Garden of Eden last episode, and he stole pages from the Book of Names that Christina is trying to get back so she can translate the Book of Names in its entirety. And the Book of Names pretty much contains spells they can use. She uses a spell on Atticus, who pulls out a gun. Is like, you stay away from my family. She uses her Jedi mind trick. She goes full blown Charles Xavier on him. He can't move. He's just pointing that gun. She's walking around him, telling him all of that, the story about Winthorpe and why she is doing what she's doing. And all the while, Atticus cannot move. He's just stuck in that spot. It wraps up the episode with one of my favorite lines of the series so far. If you're gonna keep doing this, you got to do it smarter. Like, you just can't go around killing white women. And I love that scene because that's the first thing I thought when he pulled the gun out. What are you gonna do? Kill this white woman in the middle of town and then what? Get lynched? It's no positive outcome for that. But another great episode, probably my most favorite episode of the show so far. Each episode has really done a great job taking a aspect of the horror genre and turning it into something new, and it's not boring. The first episode is kind of like a cabin in the woods once we finally got to the supernatural aspect, and the second episode was more along the lines of secret society cult with the secrets conspiracy, and this one is a pure ghost story, and it really combines themes of religion and spirituality along with victim I don't want to say victim mentality, but it's just great the way they use the ghost as a surrogate for the community. Like, the horrible things may happen to us, like horrible things happen to those people who became the ghost, but you don't got to be a victim. You don't have to haunt the residents. You don't have to be a byproduct of the horrible event. And it's just such a beautifully made show once you start unpacking these deep layers, and the Emmett Till deep cut and the Martin Luther King deep cut. Jordan Peele knows what he's doing, man. And I am so excited to see, we're only on episode 3 and it's only going to get better. So can't wait to, we are all now officially caught up. So going forward, these episodes probably will just be weekly for Lovecraft Country. So please continue to check in with me. Make sure to hit that notification bell so you know as soon as we put out new videos. Also, make sure you are on our Facebook fan page, our Facebook community page. If you do have any questions, we love your feedback. Email us at urbanalchemypodcast@gmail.com. So I'm J.M. Banks. This is Urban Alchemy Podcast, and I will catch you guys later.